Here's a movie review. I haven't done one of these for a while, but I wanted to do a movie review, TV review of the television show Hell on Wheels, because I was mentioning the other day that I was watching it and I was enjoying it, and I was laying in bed last night, like I felt kind of embarrassed I said that because I don't think it's not a show that I should be proud of watching because it's so violent. I think it's gratuitously violent. I was thinking about the scene where the guy strangles the blonde girl to death, and and that's like what I choose to watch as my happy show. And I think that show is a good example of what's wrong with our society. Um, we have and what's wrong with our the way that we look at history and look at the past and look at our own human nature, um, and how it shows how we don't take our lives seriously. We shouldn't be representing people as being that evil. It wasn't that violent. I mean, people, if you talk about the Wild West, people say, oh yeah, it was violent, but it wasn't violent in that people were just gratuitously killing each other. In that show, everybody has to die. Like every season, somebody has to die or somebody has to do something completely violent, like for no reason. For example, there's this one scene where they get three guys from the railroad town, to go out and get revenge on the Indians that attacked the rail car. So they have an Indian in there who knows where they are because it's his family, and then a white guy and then a black guy go out, and then the army. So they go out and they kill the Indians, and then the Indian guy and the army guy chat for a little bit after it all, and the Indian guy walks off and everything's good. And then in the next scene, that army guy shows up inside of the preacher man's tent. He's, hey, where's that Indian guy? And all of a sudden, the preacher man's like, hey, you don't want to kill my son. And he's like, I just want to talk to him. And he turns around and then he just slices his head off. The preacher man slices the head off the soldier for no reason. And then that's that story. And then the girl, the blonde girl, they keep telling her, they try to get her to move back to Chicago. And then but she doesn't want to, and she's afraid, oh, they might try to kill her. And he tried to get the black guy to kill her, but he didn't want to. So then the Swedish guy strangles her to death, and you film that. When they could have just had her go back. If they wanted to get the character out, they didn't have to get her killed. When the preacher man kills all those people before he dies, I don't want to give all the examples, but the Wild West wasn't that violent. People weren't just gratuitously killing each other. For example, in the mining town Caribou, it was one of the biggest mining towns in Colorado. It had, some people say, up to 10,000 people. It had like 6 saloons. And there was only one murder the whole time, and it existed for like 50 years. An Irish guy got in a fight with a black guy, the only black guy who lived up there, over food, and killed the black guy, and then they acquitted the white guy. Usually people would be acquitted. If somebody would kill somebody, then they would go into a court of locals, of like 6 locals to investigate it, but they would always acquit the person. But that didn't really happen like all the time, like it shows. Wild Bill Hickok, the guy who's the most famous gunslinger, he only killed 6 people in his whole life, and he was kind of like a lawman, So, and the guy who killed him was just a crazy random dude who walked into his card game while his back was turned to the wall and just shot him in the head because he wanted to, and that guy got acquitted. Before there was a public outcry, and then they eventually hung him. But I mean, the Wild West was. The Wild West was something that was there was a lot of law and order, and people were always trying to maintain their law and order. And there are better ways to portray how people would, you know, watch after themselves. I guess the security. There's one story, like in the Oregon Trail. There was a woman who wrote a book about the Oregon Trail, her experiences, and there was one incident where a guy was killed. One of the wagon guys was killed, and nobody knew who killed him. He just was dead one morning. And after a few weeks or whatever, they started seeing his belongings in this other guy's wagon train, and so they decided that he did it, and so they all hung him. But they made sure to take care of his family for the rest of the way because he had a wife and kids. So there a lot of ways they could have portrayed those people as being a lot more civilized. They showed the Mormons in this last episode I saw, and they walk up to talk to the Mormon, and then they just shoot the cop and kill him. I remember in the Oregon Trail book, they were talking about the Mormons, and she said that they were afraid of them. They had bad reputation from their wagon train because they were known to ambush the wagon train, kind of like Indians, and kidnap women as wives. And yeah, so they could have shown something like that, but just people being stupid, you know. And then him giving up his son to be hung. I've never heard of anything like that. Yeah, every episode having something completely outlandish happening every single episode. I think we should cut that out on the historical TV shows, and we should bring them, stress more the most outlandish, crazy story that ever actually happened that somebody read about, and then put that in the story, even if it doesn't have to be in the same context, but not to invent things that don't make sense, you know, because the most outlandish stuff, craziest, wackiest, wildest stories that ever or actually really existed are a lot more tame than the stuff they put in that show. So yeah, I think it's too violent, man. It's too bad that you have to, because I do like watching it for all the drama between the races and the showing how interesting of a situation that is for everybody. But to have all of these just violent scenes, you know, the guy getting his head chopped off, the girl getting strangled, the son having to stab his father to death, those two brothers gutting killing the butcher, you know, the butcher wanting to kill them because it's just revenge and revenge. I mean, there's a lot of other drama that you could show that would be more entertaining, that wouldn't like give somebody nightmares as they're laying in bed, like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching that, like, what the fuck. And this fucked up thing is that show, with all of the violence it has, it's one of the like G-rated shows, PG-13, because there's no nudity at all. And I was watching Marco Polo, which is another Netflix original miniseries, and every single episode there were like 50 completely naked girls, and I don't think there was any actual violence. But in this show, like half the characters are prostitutes, and you know they're having sex, and there's like no nipple, yet at the same time there's slicing heads off, and so we're telling the kids it's okay to be violent and just show violence and talk about violence and try to tell them that, you know, give them the idea that back then people were just gratuitously violent and vengeful like that, and that's how people spent their time. People are going to grow up and become like that. Obviously, it's like programming people to be like that. We should program people to be. They should have cut out all that stuff and had, yeah, more of the politics and stuff. So, yeah, but I mean, I'm addicted to it. We're watching it last night for a bunch of episodes, and I think I'll keep watching it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe the people who make it, they know what's entertaining. So I guess people should try to. It's kind of like junk food, junk entertainment. It's delicious and you just scrumptious, I guess, but it's not healthy. So we have to actually try to forcefully cut it down. Not the people who make it because they want to make money, but the people who actually consume it need to say, okay, I like the show, but I reject. I think we should cut down the all of the violent bad behavior that they were doing. So that's what I wanted to say. Okay, peace out.